Good evening and welcome to Speak Out Loud. I'm your host, Success Coach Ricky Terry, president of One Due North LLC, your professional mentoring and coaching company. We've been talking about transitioning, and as you heard from our guest previous, life will throw you some transitions, whether it is professional or personal. Life changes. The road never stays the same. And sometimes you got to turn with the road, even if that means taking an about face, if you will, doing a U-turn, getting off on an exit and getting back on the other way. You'll find out it will take you where you eventually want to go. And my guest today is no different than anybody else, except she is a straight up warrior out of New Jersey. She is a fighter, both spiritually, and she might even try you a little physically. You know how them people from, well, I can't say that. My wife is from there, and that might get me in a lot of trouble. I am talking about none other, though, than my friend, Miss Larisha McKnight. Larisha, how you doing, girl?
Hey, Rick, that was a great introduction. And yes, you're right. I will fight you if you make me. I'll fight spiritually all day long, but it could get physical. I ain't no killer, but don't push me.
Don't push. Don't. Well, how you feeling now? You okay now?
I'm feeling calm right now. You ain't said no.
Because I don't want to start that with you. You know how you Navy people are.
Oh yes, I'll bring it to you if I have to. Although not as much as you Army folk.
Who? I ain't gonna argue with you. You know, we all stood in service of this country at some point, and you have a really great story about your service, but we'll get to that a little later. Before we start, will you please properly introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you?
Sure. Hi, I am Larisha McKnight, as was stated. I met him quite a few years ago when I was still kind of young in my maturity. But I met him when I was in the middle of my military career. I left home at 18 to go join the Navy because they talked me into it. They were the first branch of government to get to me, or branch of service to get to me after I'd taken the ASVAB test, not even knowing what that was for. And I got recruited and I went away, and then life happened. Like you were saying, I had a kid, and then I had another kid. And then by then I'm halfway, I'm in my first 4 years, and they dangled a money carrot in my face, and I needed to take care of these kids, and I didn't know what else I was going to do if I got out. Wow. So I stayed, and that turned into a 20-year career.
Wow. Now, you said they talked you into it. Who talked you into it?
The Navy recruiter, man. Those recruiters will tell you any and everything that they have to, and they saw me coming. They made it sound great. We're going to send you to school. You're going to get to travel, and then we're going to pay you on top of that. I said, oh, this sounds...
You traveled? Well, the Navy, I can't remember the slogan when I went in. It was join the Navy and see the world, I think.
I've seen a lot of it. I've seen quite a bit of it.
Oh, wow.
I probably wouldn't have seen any of that had it not been for the Navy.
What was the best place you remember of all the places you traveled?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I was very young when I did most of my traveling. So admittedly, there's a lot I don't remember.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You are worse than I am. You are worse than I am.
I think one of the best places that's most memorable to me would be the Seychelles Islands, which are a set of islands off the coast of Africa. And the weather was gorgeous. The people were beautiful. And that's one of my most memorable trips. Sunsets are phenomenal. Any sunset out to sea is phenomenal.
I know that's right. I was in Australia, went a couple of times. I love Australia, especially the outback. I enjoyed Brisbane, Townsville. You go to Sydney and you're really not getting Sydney as people once talked about it. You get New York City now, but
oh wow.
Yeah, Sydney is a place to go and enjoy great concerts and nightlife and clubbing, but that's New York City or LA or Atlanta or anywhere else. But getting into the other parts of Australia was really nice. So you now something else happens also while you're in the Navy. You went Navy kids, but something else happened. You gonna tell them about that one? You want me to tell them?
I snatched me up a good man.
Oh, she said, I snatched me up a good man.
I did. I snatched me up a good man. I've never been real patient. I've always been the type of person that goes after what they want. And I saw him and I wanted him and I went after him.
Now,
We've been married.
there's some ladies going, girl, you that ain't real woman like. That ain't real lady like. What you say? You sitting over there 30 years still talking about it ain't ladylike without a man talking about
With
God
man.
gonna send you one. When
You better go get it. You better go get it. I went and got mine. And here we are, almost 18 years later, 15 years married. I'm glad I did it. Ladylike or not.
Wow. And I know your husband, he's one of my brothers. He is, more importantly, one of my dear friends, and he is a man of his word.
Yes, he is.
And so I send my condolences to him every day about you. Hey Chuck, I'm thinking about you, man. So Larisha, we're talking about transitioning, and like you said, you went your 20 years, but in the military, a lot of people still have questions. Should they go into the military? Should they encourage their children to go into the military? Is the military a good fit for Black people? I've heard it all, and I was there. But from a woman's perspective, coming out of New Jersey, right out of high school, was that a good transition at the time? And would you do it again?
Well, those are great questions. Was it a good transition at the time? At the time, I felt it was the only real viable option I had to get what I wanted, which ultimately was to be out of my mother's house and on my own. So in that manner, yes, that was a very good transition for me.
I know your mama too. I'm gonna make sure she gets this. I know your mama.
Oh, I love my mommy. Shout out to you, mommy. I love you, and I would never say anything against you. But yes, I needed to be independent and on my own. And we didn't have college. Nobody talked about college savings and funds and all that like they have now. So I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. So the Navy said, again, we'll pay for your school. We'll pay for you to travel. We'll pay for you to live. And we'll give you a check after that. So I said, I'm going to go for it. And it turned out to be one of the best things in life that's ever happened to me. I hated it the entire time while I was in the whole 20 years. I fussed and hated it.
Wait a minute. Now, when you raise your right hand and say, do you solemnly, and you're telling me you hated it the whole time?
Those were some words to get me through. I tell everybody who listened, I was in the Navy, but it was definitely not in me. And
I know
there
that's
was a
right.
lot of personal, my own personal Jersey attitude combined with what they try to teach you, sometimes we're in great conflict. But I did raise my right hand and make that oath. So I was going to uphold my end of the bargain to the best of my ability. I didn't get in trouble in the whole 20 years. So I'll say that's a plus.
And I'm here to tell people, I'm here to tell people, one, the military is the largest employer of people. Let's be clear about that. Those people come from various backgrounds around not only the United States, but the world. To be a part of our military. And they bring with them, as you heard Larisha say, she brought her Jersey attitude with her. Yes. They bring all of their stuff with them. Absolutely. And if they come in one way, unless they meet a dynamic leader, they're going to leave out the same way. Larisha, what was it like getting leadership and mentor in the military for you?
Leadership and mentoring. So my very first leader that sticks out for me that was a good example of leadership always told me and taught us that as long as you do what I need you to do, I'll take care of the bullets that come from above. Be honest with me and I'll be honest with you. And that's the very first ship that I was on. So like I said, my very first chief, he taught me that. And I've always kept that with me. Now I've had many different leaders, good and bad. I've learned something from both. That has been the number one tenet for me whenever I lead, even to involve my children, that you take care of what I ask you to do. And if you have my back on that, I'll have your back on everything else. Even if it's ugly, I'll fight that battle for you. That's my role as the leader. So I've kept that with me. And my my mentor, my very first mentor, I love her. I love her to this day. We are the greatest of friends, Crystal Hardy. When they first told her, or asked her, I should say, to be my mentor, and she will tell this same story exactly the same way I'm telling it. She said some expletives like, "Oh no, I don't want her, that girl," and a bunch of expletives. Because I was a mess. I told you I brought my Jersey attitude. And when I met her, I was only like 4 years in, and it was my very first shift. And I was going to do things how I wanted to do it because I thought I knew it all at 21. And she taught me so much about life, being a woman, being a Black woman in the military. Before she retired, she made it to the highest enlisted rank that they have in the Navy. And in the job that she was in, I don't think there had ever been anybody at her rank or level that was Black and a female. She was such an inspiration to me. She's always was dignified in how she conducted herself. She has always been honest, which a lot of people find hard to do, especially in a leadership role. Sometimes you don't want to tell those that are above you the honest truth so that they can make decisions that are in the best interest for all. And she's always helped me and showed me to have integrity no matter what I do. And I'll never, ever forget that. And like I said, just those two key people while I was in the military and all the muck and mire that I went through, even in my personal relationships, because they're both dear friends, they taught me so much. And I want to take the opportunity because I know how it felt for them to take me under their wing and to give that back to other people.
Well, I see you doing that already. And by the way, because, we got to be fair here. As I said, I think I'm going into at least, 15 years of knowing you now? At least 15, if not a little bit more. And I can say without a doubt, I've seen you walk the walk you were talking about, those leaders that poured into you. And were you available for their mentorship, for their guidance? Because oftentimes people bring that, but the person isn't ready for it. Do you believe you were ready for it?
You know what? That is so very interesting that you say that, because all these years later, I still kind of struggle with that. I think at the time they were introduced into my life, I was not in a position where I was a sponge wanting to soak up everything that they had to pass on to me, because I was young and I knew everything. Even though I had done nothing, I knew everything. And they could say stuff and I could see where they were at. And I could look at it like, well, maybe they know what they're talking about. Look how successful they've been. But at the same time, I had that, well, I'm going to carve out my own niche. In hindsight, which we all know is 2020, I didn't receive it at the time, but the seeds had been planted. And since that time, my seeds have been watered and fertilized with other people. And it'll bring me back to those seeds that they planted. To
those original roots.
Right.
Well, I can say, and I say again, I've witnessed your growth, if you don't mind my saying that, both professionally and personally. And what would you say to those who, like, you got that assignment and she said, oh no, I'm not working with her. but I would venture to believe she would also say, if you say she's still telling that same story, she would say, Laurisha was the rock that helped sharpen my sword to get me to those places. Because if everybody that we approach easily follows us, how do we get stronger?
Right.
What would you say to those who would be mentors that's thinking about giving up on somebody? What would you say to them? Because they ran into a Laurisha or a Ricky or a Ricky.
Please don't quit. There's light at the end of this tunnel. Please don't quit. That'd be the first piece of advice. They need your help. Trust me. If anything like I was, they need your help. Just hang on in there.
Yes, we do.
No, but seriously, I would tell them, and what I've recently began to start to understand for myself even, is that you can't ever judge or discount a person because of where they're at. Just like you've had an experience, so have they. Just like your experience shaped you, so has theirs. So it may not be in that position, like I said, to take that, be a sponge with what you're willing to offer. But if you just plant that seed, do your part and plant that seed and let God do the rest. He'll send the rest of the sowers. He'll send the people that are there to till the soil. He'll send those things. So just do whatever part he's tasked you with doing, and let God get glory in the end.
And I can tell you, you wore that uniform with pride. You wore it with dignity, and you became the very essence of what had been poured into you. I watched you do it while you were transitioning upwards in your career, and I watched you do it since you've transitioned into a new career. But how would you rate your transition out of the military? I want to jump now. You've done it. By the way, what is it like as a black woman serving? I want to make sure I get this down. What is that like?
It's the world run by men historically, and women have just recently began to be assertive and to be looked upon as equals in certain roles. And while I was in the military, it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, there were times when I would be in a position of leadership, but because I was a woman, I believe, and because I was a black woman at that, they don't want to hear what I have to say. I either have to be extra assertive and then, I get that label, or I'm
The angry black woman?
yes, I get that label.
Don't you
And all
hate
I'm
it?
trying to do is simply get a job done, but I have to be that person because otherwise nobody takes me seriously. So there was a lot of difficulty with that. And just the fact that women weren't doing traditional roles in the military so long ago. Women just started to be able to be allowed on ships in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. So for us to be on the ship with a crew of mostly all males that were used to the male, locker room talk and all that type of thing, there's a big transition that takes place. And I'm not surprised by how there's so many. They have the military as a whole has now realized that we have to address the issue of sexual harassment, sexual assault in the military, because it's way more rampant than they're willing to admit and acknowledge. And women are saying, hey, see us too. See us as we can do what you do, but we are different.
Well,
Respect us for our abilities, that type of thing.
I agree with you. And as a brother to five sisters, and the only boy and oldest, I could not agree more. And I hope new leadership will address these issues. I hope that both male and female will understand we've got to be more professional at what we do, because there's a lot at stake. There are enemies who are looking to find ways to weaken our military, and I want to encourage every service member to stay strong, stay disciplined, and then I want to say to those females, don't sit back and take it. Speak out, speak out loud. Don't believe the problem will get better if you don't say nothing. It won't.
Right.
And then to the men, you got to be accountable. And I know there have been times in my life I've had to say I'm sorry. Don't be afraid to say I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So I gotta ask you this, because you are a former service member. I'm tearing stuff up in the studio now. You are a former service member, no doubt. And you're also a black woman. But what did it feel like to watch a woman of color place her hands on the Bible? Go ahead. You're going to take over. Go on.
Black girl magic. I loved it. I loved it. I cried. I loved it. I wanted to call every woman that I knew and cheer and yell and scream. We broke the ceiling. I am so proud of Kamala Harris for being the first woman of color who is the Vice President of the United States of America. I'm so proud of her.
Wouldn't you love to be in uniform and render that salute to her?
And like I said, when I was in the Navy, I was never of the Navy. But when we had elected President Barack Obama and then now Vice President Kamala Harris, yes, those are times that I wish I could just run my uniform and put it on, whether it fits or not, and just give them that Christmas salute. I think those are such great accomplishments. I think about future generations where I can say, I was in the service when we elected and we inaugurated the first Black president. I can say I was a veteran, and that just alone, being able to tell that story to my grandchildren and great grandchildren just gives me pride all in itself. I didn't think that being in the Navy was that big of a deal. The role that I had, I wasn't on no front lines. I wasn't taking out enemies. I didn't have that saving lives role, but I did play my part. I had a role and I played my part. Just because your big toenail doesn't really do much, it's part of your body. So
Well,
to still get recognition. And I
I'm
had to start looking at my service in that way.
and that's hard and there's been a lot of talk lately and you go down this road of imposter syndrome, um and especially in women finding themselves having to fight themselves to believe in their skill sets and what they have accomplished, and oftentimes they will take a back seat because they feel like if I speak up, if I speak out, if I assert myself, I come across as an imposter. But Larisha, you are anything but that.
It
Okay.
took me a minute to come to that on my own, Rick, and I appreciate that you acknowledge that.
Well, I acknowledge it not because I want to just make you feel good. I acknowledge it because I've witnessed you in action. I've witnessed your desire for more. I've witnessed your desire to help people achieve more. Sometimes at your expense, you help others. And that's what leaders do. And you talked about it earlier. Leader, you said your first leader did something I wholeheartedly believe in. I will stand as the shield to the brass as long as you are delivering down here. If you
Absolutely.
can deliver, you give me something to stand on for you. When
Absolutely.
when you made your transition into your civilian life, you spent 20 years. I came to your retirement party. It was a beautiful event. But when you woke up the next morning, what was that feeling like?
Oh, wow, Rick. Oh, my God. Leading up to that, I had to get into a therapist's office and everything. That whole
I'm
time,
not laughing at the therapist, but nobody understands what that means. Break it down.
honey, people will see on the outside, girl, you doing so well, but you did not see what was going on in the background. The last year of my service, I was on pins and needles. For the last 20 years, I have been told where to go and what to do when I get there, what I'm supposed to wear while I'm there. This is what you're supposed to say. I was told everything, and all I had to do was show up and perform. Now that's over. Now you're responsible for what you do next. Now you get to pick. There's all these options out here. I was so overwhelmed. It was a mess. It was such a mess. I was a mess. I was
I'm
my
glad to hear you
children,
say it.
honey, I was a terrible mess. My oldest child was graduating high school the same year. So that was my baby, my very first. Now she's getting ready to go out and live her life. Oh my God, well, she's not going to
Wait a
leave.
minute. Wait a minute.
I was
You
a
were
mess.
also going to school too, weren't you?
And I was graduating from college. Like there was so much going on
So
the
you
year
got
I
your
was
you got
retired
you're getting ready to retire. Your daughter graduating.
from high school, and I was graduating from college all at
And
the
you're
same.
graduating. Good Lord. How'd you keep it together?
I don't know. I told you I had to be on somebody's couch. I spent a lot of time on somebody's couch. I'm sure my husband was probably like, what's going on? One day I'd be crying. The next day I was proud. The next day I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm not going to have a job. Like it was just such a stressful time. People don't really talk about that. That's a
No.
big change for somebody who's been conditioned to do what I tell you to do every day, all day, just show up and just say what I tell you to say, to now you're on your own.
You nailed it because when I came out and I came to Maryland, I remember the very first morning waking up and I didn't know where to go.
Terrified.
I,
And you
I
weren't. Can't speak for you, but for me, I had little small jobs before I left for the military, while I was in high school and in the summers, but I'd never had a career type of job. So now I have to take this skill or these things that I had learned while I was in and stuff that I took for granted. I just knew them. They weren't stuff that you have to learn. This is stuff I just knew because that's what I'd done all my career. And now I have to learn to articulate that in a way where somebody can understand that on a resume. I have to be able to articulate that if I get called to an interview. Like I was so terrified, Rick. It was horrible.
we don't know how to interview. We know how to do promotion boards. I remember I'm with you, so I got you. And you just use a little common sense. Okay, I better put on a suit.
Right.
But what is, if you've never been to an interview and you spent 20 years in the military, you come across as rigid and tight, and they go, I don't want to, they're going to explode up in here. And there were no career coaches that we could afford when I came out who could help you with that. So how did you make the transition? What was the process for you?
Okay, well, early on, when I had already decided that I was going to retire and had my date, I started to attend. They've built these great classes now for military members, at least for the Navy, where you go and they just give you a crash course on the benefits that you're entitled to as a veteran. They spend it's a week long, and they spend the majority of the week giving you a workshop from the Department of Labor. They talk about everything from how to write your resume, how to do your 30 seconds elevator speech, what you should wear to the workplace. Like, they go over everything. And I took that class more than once. I recommend it to anybody who's in the military. You don't have to be about to retire. You could take it a year out before you can make your decision. I would recommend. There was a lot of good information that I believe that the military should probably give prior to that point in a person's career, earlier than when they're about to get out. They need to know this stuff in advance to make the appropriate financial decisions with their paychecks that they're going to be getting. Like, there was just so much good information. And at the same time, it was information that was coming at me through, it was fire hydrant with a straw hooked up to it. It was so much information. It was overwhelming. So I kept a lot of that information, and I tried to connect with other people that were in the class that had similar stories to mine. And I did reach out to a lot of the people that I had known that transitioned prior to me, and what did they do? What didn't they do? I tried to get all that I could. I took care of all my medical that I needed to take care of, as far as for the military. And I can't stress enough how important to get all of your medical information, keep those records for when you're about to retire or you're just getting discharged, and stay in touch with the VA. You are entitled to so many things that you may not know that you're entitled to. And just because you didn't leave with a leg missing doesn't mean that you didn't take on something from your service, whether it be mentally, whether it be physically. You are a different person now than you were that day when you said your oath and went into boot camp. So don't ever discount that, and get what you have earned. Nobody's giving you anything. You've earned those benefits.
And I want to encourage people to make sure, especially my vets, make sure you continue to look at your educational opportunities, because you are a vet. Between medical and education, you can do some things. Laurisha, we're going to take a quick break right here, and then we're going to be right back.
All right. Sounds good.
You're listening to Speak Out Loud with success coach Ricky Terry, president of One Due North LLC, your professional mentoring and coaching company. We want you to come back and continue to listen to the one-time Navy personnel who is now retired and blinging it in the governmental system. So, Laurisha, you're out now. You're not called by your first name, which is your rank. You are actually probably called Miss McKnight now. And what is it like being a well-informed, well-educated Black woman in
federal government?
What is that like now?
Wow. So,
as a veteran.
Let me tell you this. When I got out of the military, I had no idea. The ultimate goal for me was to get a government job, simply because it would afford me the same stability that I had while I was active duty. That's something I could keep kind of constant through the transition. Okay. And so I just began to put in applications at every federal job that I could find. I didn't care at one point I'd been putting in so many, I didn't even care if it was something that I could do. I just submitted my resume. And I believe that God has showed me favor time and time again. And yet again, he did not fail me. I was interviewed, hired, and had a start date within 2 months of putting in an application to the federal government, knowing no one at the agency that I work for, just by simply what I'd written on a piece of paper, how I performed in an interview, and the favor of God. And I've been in the government now, it's been 3 years. And that may not be everybody's, goals. But like I said, I was looking for that same stability that I had in the military, and working for the federal government affords me that. I have medical, I have regular paychecks. I have, I know what days I'm going to be off throughout the year. It's not like working in private sector where you have floating.
If you guys don't know, we're talking to Larisha McKnight. We're covering the last portion of transitioning, and she came from New Jersey. Y'all know that's where my wife is from. She went into the Navy. She saw most of the world. She snagged, those are her words, she snagged her man. She snagged him, and then they had a family. And she's now transitioned into that new life. What is a civilian like is what she's taught. What is it like now being a civilian in the government sector doing her thing? Laurisha, was that a big change for you, or is it so many other people that y'all all spoke the same language?
Oh no. Leaving in the military, you're under DOD, the Department of Defense. They're about their business. Their rules are what the rules are, and they're very strict. I've found that since now I'm no longer a part of DOD, the restrictions and the rules are a little more lax. They may be there, but they're not held to the same standards. So I definitely had to get used to the lack of a sense of urgency.
Yes.
In my government job. The government, as everybody knows, works at their own pace. And I don't want to disparage government work because I do my job. I enjoy my job. But it was a very, very big transition. It was a 180 from this is due on this day. I don't get to ask questions. I do it and I turn it in to this has been going on for 3 months. Well, how are we going to clear it up? Oh, it's in the next person's folder and we'll get to it when we get to it. The priority has changed. It's a very big difference.
Wow. Well, you know what they say. If you don't want a job, get a government job.
Anyway.
Anyway, let's move forward because you and I spent some time. We went to the same church. We were a part of the same church. And that's when I got to really see the growth of the woman, of the leader, that spiritual growth that also, I saw you help so many people. How is your faith a part of your success?
Oh my God, my faith is everything that I am. If I didn't have faith, I wouldn't have anything. I have the most, I don't even know how to describe the amount of faith that I have. God has grown my faith so exponentially because of every time I've relied on him and he has shown up. So I believe the most impossible thing you can think of, that's what I believe. And I stick by it. And I'm that type of person where Jesus Christ himself has to tell me I can't have a thing once I've fixed my mind on it. So my faith is a very big, important part of who I am. It's important part of my family life. It's just who I am. I'm just a faithful person. I've seen God do too many things to not believe.
All things.
All things.
All things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And not only is it how you walk, but it's also the image you show because in the military, we call it your call sign. Won't you tell people what your call sign is in your faith?
My call sign is Luke 12:48. To whom much is given, much is required. And I realize God has given me, it may not be anything to the next person looking at what I have, but for me, God has given me so much. He's healed family members. He has brought me from pits where I didn't even realize I was that low. He has just done so much for me. And so I know because he has given me so much that there is so much more that is required of me. It's very scary to realize that God's got way, way more for me to do.
Which requires new skills, which require new commitments, which requires new focus, which requires new resources, which requires more time with God.
Yes.
Because I realized something in running One Due North when I left the military. I transitioned into sales, and then from sales to a couple other things, and finally to where I'm at now. I realized one thing: every new mission meant I had to go back and be replenished.
Absolutely, and that is so important to do that spiritually. Yes.
So would you say, how would you tell, especially young Black women who are full of themselves, as they say, and they know everything, what would you share with them that some of the things they should consider doing so that they don't become burnout or frustrated or upset because it didn't first work out?
Oh, wow. First and foremost, I would say remain humble.
Yeah, say that again.
Remain humble. If you start to believe in your own ability over what God can do, you are setting yourself up for failure.
You better say that again. You better say that again.
Remain humble and know where your help comes from. Everything that happens in your life, good or bad, is for the glory of God. If you ever take that from him, you will suffer the consequence.
And that is true. And I wanted to say, as I've said with Laurisha, and I've had the pleasure of being in counsel with Laurisha, and when I say in counsel, I mean in wise counsel. this life ain't easy. This life ain't easy. Why you laughing? I was getting ready to go into a serious
Honey,
thing right there,
you
girl.
ain't never lied. Nobody and everybody says it's not fair. Well, who told you it was gonna be fair?
It ain't even. It ain't fair.
No,
It ain't right. It ain't just.
it
But
is
it
what it is.
is.
Though.
It is what it is, and it is what you allow it to remain to be. Larisha, when you didn't like something, what do?
You got to change it. You can't keep. I can speak on my marriage specifically. I could complain till the cows come home of what my husband was not doing and the result that I was getting. But until I realized maybe if I did something different,
Uh-oh.
then he'll respond different and
Uh-oh.
we'll be in a different place. So I am continually on a journey of how can I do better?
And I can tell you that's a two-way street. And if both people, when I counsel people prior to doing marriages or just helping them with their relationship, the first person you got to look at, even when you are in your righteous self, is yourself.
Absolutely. And then that goes along with what I just said. Stay humble. Always know that there is an area or a thing in your life that you can do better.
Well, nobody's
ever going to be perfect. We're just striving to be better.
Well, there are a lot of people talking now because Black women are finally busting through, as you said, into the forefront. But how is that improving, or is it causing problems, or have you even stopped to think about it in terms of marriage? How can men and women, especially Black men and women who are both professionals and trying to hold down a house, how can they secure their house to make sure that they're not competing, but they are complementing one another?
Wow, that's a loaded, good question.
Well, thank you. I thought that up all by myself.
No help.
Tomorrow I'm working on my colors.
Oh my goodness, I can't. Well, to answer your question, how can we get on one accord, basically, is what I took away from what you just asked me.
Mm-hmm.
In any relationship, for one, I've looked at it like this. You have to want to be what you're in, be it a relationship, be it an engagement, be it a marriage. You have to want to be there. If you don't want to be there, then your actions are not going to follow that direction. If you don't want to be there, then you're going to start to behave as if you don't want to be there. So you have to take stock and see, is this something that I want to pursue? In my mind, is this investment going to be worth long-term returns?
Right.
So once the person makes the decision, be it the wife or the husband, I want to be in this relationship, comes sickness, health, rich, poor, whatever. Now you have to start going to God and asking him, what is it that I need to be doing? What do I need to get planted in my heart? Because out of the heart, that's where the mouth is. So what is God? What are you putting on the inside of me that you want me to exhibit in this relationship? I ask him all the time, what is it that I could be doing that I'm not doing, that my husband needs? What need am I not meeting? What area can I be better in? Do I need to be a softer, safe place for him to be vulnerable? Like there's been a lot of things, and none of this happened in 6 months. Shoot, it didn't even happen in the first 7 years. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into a relationship.
You ain't never lied.
Ideals, 2 different upbringings, you sticking them together and
two alpha personalities.
Ooh, that's me and my husband all day long.
Two vertically challenged people. Oh, that's something different.
Got jokes now. You got jokes. I see where you're going with it.
I just think vertically challenged people are angry more than most people. That's
whatever. I'm not angry. I can't speak for me. I'm not angry.
So what's next for the woman who has accomplished even the dreams she didn't know she had?
Wow, what's next?
What's next for Larisha McKnight? How will the world get to know her?
Well, I sit around and I've always journaled different parts of my life since I was a kid. So I've been coming across some of this old stuff and looking at it and what's still in me now. And I journal thoughts that I have or things that God might download. And I think I might stick it all together, see if I can make it into a book somebody might want to read. I want to just be able to share the experiences in life that I've had through transitioning from a young girl into a teenager, from an all-white community to a mixed community, from a single person to a mother and a wife and and a veteran, and I want to be able to take all of the nuggets that I have garnered up over the years and share them with the world. So I got to get myself together, but I want to help people. I just want to help people learn themselves, look at things in a different manner, and then hopefully take that energy and use it for good, and then help somebody else.
Well,
pass it along, pay it forward.
I can't wait to be at your first speaking engagement. I can't wait to be at your first book signing. I can't wait to be at your first ribbon cutting for your business.
Your lips to God's ears. Oh,
I can't wait to be at your next wedding anniversary. I can't wait because I haven't seen anything since I've known you, and our families are relatively close. I haven't seen anything that you and Chuck wanted that you didn't go get. I haven't seen your babies want for anything, and they all go get it for themselves. They got mom and daddy support, but we watched you teach them how to get it for themselves. And so I don't believe there's nothing you can't have, because you are flexible to transition into what it is you need to become to get what it is you want. In these last few minutes, Laurisha, what would you share with people that because this pandemic has put a strain on us, and we did a virtual Valentine's Day party. You and Chuck were part of it, and we took some calls after that, which surprised us of people who were going through. This pandemic has really put a squeeze on us. What would you say to couples that are still holding on? They don't have to be going through necessarily, but they're holding on, but times are tight.
Keep holding on. Hold on to each other. Hold on to God's unchanging hand. If it's something that he's ordained, if it's something that's in his will for your life, just hold on.
Come on,
You'll get to the end. That's my philosophy in life. If it's God's will for you, what's for you is for you. So just keep holding on. You can have days. People forget sometimes, especially when you're a believer in Christ, that you are also a human being, and that human beings have emotions and they have reactions, and they sometimes are not always happy and feeling good. We can't hide from those things. We can't not talk about those things. We can't act like they're sweep them under the rug. If you're having a difficulty in a relationship, say something. Say it to that person, ideally, but go out and reach out to somebody. Like people called and reached out to you. Reach out to somebody to help you get off of the ledge. Let me talk you down for a second. Get you back in your neutral corners, or get you back to a place where you believe again.
Let me put a potato in your pocket. Let me sit
down for a second. Let me
sit your behind down. Well,
right.
How I tell people all the time, had it not been for there are mentors, and then there are coaches, and then there are people who just kick you in your behind because they see the best in you. How important is it to get those people in your life, your accountability circle?
I would have never made it to where I am now had I not been accountable to somebody at some point. God has put in my life everything that I've always needed. If I didn't get it from the traditional source, God sent it from an alternate source. It is very imperative to have somebody that's in your corner that's going to tell you, no, you're not right. No, you were wrong then. And you need to acknowledge that. You need to speak it, and you need to go and repent for it. You got to have those people that are, if they're just your yes men, they're not your people.
You mean I've got to admit that, that I need help?
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's no shame in it. It makes you, to me, a better person, that you could recognize that, yes, I do fall short.
I don't know if I can admit that there are times when I'm wrong.
All right. Well, let that pride be the death of whatever it is you.
Let that be you, huh?
Let that be you. You're going to be you by yourself.
Well, I tell people there are two ways. There is the way that you choose to go, and there is the successful way. That's just that easy. There's the way you choose to go, and then there is the successful way. And so do what you got to do, but either way, you got to get there. I've always said we do the things we have to so we can do the things we want to.
Absolutely.
She put up with each one of those years so she could get to the end and say, no matter what, I know every month they're going to pay me this much money. I know that if I have this on my resume, that I am a retired service member, a leader, a defender of the Constitution of the United States, that's going to give me a bump over somebody else that didn't. So I did it. I knew that if I go get this piece of paper from this university, that's going to give me a leg up over here. She wasn't given anything. If you are sitting back crying about what you don't have, I want to ask you, what have you invested? Because when we look at her data sheet, when we look at her portfolio, when we look at her resume, we see her investment in her. And one of the key things, no matter how much somebody else invests in you, what you invest in yourself will mean more than anything else. Laurisha, you have been one of my family's great friends. You have been a vision in front of my children of, this is the way I want to walk. And your tagline is a kept woman, that God has kept you. You want to explain that?
I have had that moniker for, I believe, since my oldest child was maybe a year old, and she's 22 now. I saw it on a poem, I think, or an email at one point, that I'm a kept woman. And then it went through several Bible verses about how God kept this person that had written this. And as I read it, I said, well, that's me. When I didn't know what to do, God kept me. When I couldn't see where I was going, God kept me. When I didn't have, God kept me. And so I adopted that. I've had license plates that have said it. I truly feel that God has always kept me. Even before I even really knew who he was keeping me. My grandmother introduced me to Jesus as a child, where I didn't understand. I just knew the songs were catchy at church. He's kept me all that time. And that's my way of letting the world know. I am kept. You might see what you say is success on my life, but I've been kept. Everything that I have, God has kept me in a position to where I wanted to keep going, and he kept blessing me.
Come on now. Well, I will tell you, her faith as real as the tone in her voice. I can tell that. I know that. I've seen that, been a witness to it. And I've witnessed what he has done because she has been faithful. And so I say to everyone, without being preachy, faith has value.
Yes.
Faith has substance.
Yes.
And faith should have a purpose in your life.
Yes.
Larisha, I can't tell you how much fun it has been talking to you. I feel like I'm just sitting down, we sitting here next to each other, just holding a conversation.
Absolutely.
Because you the bomb. And plus I'm scared of you and I'm scared of my wife. Both of y'all from New Jersey. So I'm scared of y'all.
So you're very intelligent. She got a smart.
Well, yes, the woman is brilliant. Look who she married. But anyway, I say this. I could not be prouder of the leader you are. I just couldn't be. And guys, you've probably seen Larisha on my Facebook page. If you haven't, you've seen her writing. I just thought it was so powerful what she wrote for me when I started my business, of the type of person I am, the type of work I've done and tried to do in helping others. And Larisha, I want to thank you for putting that up. So being in a position where I can help expose your gift to the world, your passion to help young women become successful, become leaders, become ladies. And I want to invite you back. I'm going to invite we're going to do a ladies only. And as the brother of 5 sisters, I'm qualified to do it. As the oldest brother and only brother to 5 sisters, I may be one of few who's qualified to pull one of these off. But I want to invite you to be one of the keynote speakers, because as you so kindly skirted around, your life ain't always been easy.
Oh my God.
But you found the blessings even in the desert.
I have.
And I witnessed you find the water in the desert, and you didn't complain that it was only a cup full. You said, "Thank you for the cup, God." And I witnessed you do it. I also witnessed you pour tears into that cup in your praise. And so if you want to know how to get God's attention, no matter where you are right now listening to this, and you want to get to the level that Laurisha is at and beyond, put it in your praise.
Yes, God. Thank you, Lord. Yes. I think praise is how I sing to God. That's how I show him how much I admire and I love and I honor. And there's not enough craziness when you praise. You jump, you sing, you shout, you scream, you cry, you just fall at his feet. I just think praise is how we let God see our heart.
And you are telling the truth. The one thing I learned about praise and prayer is I don't see the enemy once I start praying.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't see the enemy once I start praising. I don't even see the enemy once I start working in the vision. Hint, hint. Once you come out of the dream and get into the vision, God will blind you.
Yes.
He will blind your enemy so that you can become rooted. No one thought that one due north would be anything. As a matter of fact, there were people telling me to go back to my 6-figure job when I was hiding, my truck. When I couldn't contribute to a bill, there were people saying you ought to go do this and you ought to do that. But I thank God I had a praying wife, because you don't know what comes out of a difficult struggle until you make it through.
Yes, Lord.
You want your reward, make it through.
Yes.
Now I'm going to ask you this, Laurisha. What is the honey like when you make it through?
Oh my goodness, it's so sweet. It's so sweet. Oh my God. God has blessed me with things and items and desires that I would never ever, coming up how I came up, where I came up, he has thought I'm a diamond. God, I always thought I was a piece of coal, and God said, no, you're a diamond, and I'm going to make you into that. I'm going to make you shine like one of the most flawless diamonds there are. And he's been pouring into me, and I want to pour into others.
And I see that. So if you want to have Laurisha pour into you, if you want to come and listen to her speak along with some other powerful women speakers, I want you to make sure, one, put your comments in this. When you hear it, add your comments. If you got questions, add your questions. We're going to make sure Laurisha gets back to you and we get you some answers for those. And I'm going to try to get her actually on camera, and we're going to do a Facebook Live and lay this thing down, because y'all need to see her raw emotion. Plus,
that's how we do the tea. We'll spill the tea in that session, Rick. We talked about the success and transition. We'll talk about the tea in the next session.
Don't play with me, Laurisha. Don't play with me. Don't play with me, because I know somebody else that I'm a tea. Oh, my goodness.
I give him the tea now. It's real hot, real piping hot. I can give him some tea.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe I shouldn't show myself if I'm gonna give the tea. They might recognize me in the streets, maybe. I know you have a broad audience.
I'm not messing with you and Chuck. But Laurisha, I can't thank you for being a part of my accountability team. When I was in need of knowledge, you always poured into me, and when I was in need, you and your family were always there, and I pray we will always be here for you. I want to thank you for your military service. I want to thank you for your leadership, and most of all, we thank you because we just love you and your family.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Rick. Thank you so much for including me in your vision. Thank you for always propping me up. Thank you for always holding me accountable, no matter how painful it might be for me.
For you, wait a minute. Stop being selfish. Stop being selfish. Talking about painful for you. Stop being. See, now I was doing that radio thing, but now you're just getting carried away. Talking about propping you up. Ain't nobody propping you up. You ain't been propped up since you've been 22. Don't even try that. But painful is for me. Guys, if y'all don't know, I'm going to spill the tea right here. I've had the pleasure of coaching Laurisha, but she ain't never, ever, ever, ever listened to me.
You planting the seed, Rick. You're planting the seed.
All right, you've been listening to Speak Out Loud. I wanted to talk to my military veteran. I didn't want to have a stuffy, uptight conversation, and she made sure we didn't. You've been listening to a kept woman. You've been listening to a woman who believes to whom much is given, much is required. You've been listening to a woman who fought for her marriage, who fought for her kids, who fought for her own identity.
Literally.
And she won. Listen to me. She won in each one of those fights, and it was a fight to the death. And she won. And if she can win, you can win.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we look forward to talking to you again. And
I
until
look forward
next
to hearing
time,
from you. Thank you very
you
much.
you know it. Well, this is the longest goodbye I've ever done with anybody. Can we just say cut and be done?
We can be done. I just love you so much. I wanted the world to know. We're done.
I love
Bye.
you back. Bye.